And we're very excited to welcome Meg as our next speaker, who's going to be talking to us about low key stalking for the job seeker. I've seen her slides, and her first one really sets the tone. I really enjoy it. But a little bit about Meg. She's a Ruby on Rails developer with a passion for open source and tech for good. She's always smiling, continuously learning, and quick to strike up a conversation. She takes her advice with a grain of salt and a shot of tequila, and she is one of our most active and amazing members at Virtual Coffee. Thank you so much, Meg, for being here to share with us.
Okay, so the big reveal, my first slide. Yeah, my presentation is called Low Key Stalking for the Job Seeker. So picture this, you finally found your perfect job, or like something that you really, really want, this company, the values align with everything you're feeling. You feel really great contributing to their philosophy. The actual job itself is something that seems super interesting, something you're into or really excited to learn, and you're like, okay, let's do this, let's get it. But how do you stand out from this huge pool of candidates that you know is going to be also applying for this awesome job? Like, how do you tell them, hey, I'm perfect for you? So hopefully these tips I have will help you do that. These are your tools that you can use to research deeply into the company, the job, hiring managers, employees, all that goes into the job search, job application process. Just try a different approach. I use this to shake up my job search. Hopefully, you will too. LinkedIn, it's definitely a go to for everybody. You'll hear people give suggestions, and some people are a little bit intimidated by some of the suggestions. So I'm going to talk through some of them. Social media, these are tools. People put their lives on there. Use it. GitHub and GitLab, GitHub definitely being the more popular one, and email tools. And I'll explain a little more what I mean by that later. For LinkedIn, leverage it. Use your connections to get to second connections. So what I mean by this is if you are looking at a user that works at a company that you're interested in, they might be an employee you're trying to approach, or a hiring manager, or you have an interview and you're like, awesome, I want to know more information before going into it, and you know the person's name, you might see like that second next to them on your profile. That means you're connected with someone who is also connected to them. And it will show you on their profile, it will say, like, at the top, you have these connections in common. Reach out to that person you have in common, chat them up, say, hey, how's it going? How have you been? And then say, I'm looking at this job, or I got an interview for this place, and tell them how excited you are about it first off, and say, I see that you're connected with so and so. How did you meet? Sometimes they're going to say, oh, I actually don't know them. They just reached out to me and I said yes. Okay, that's kind of a dead end. Sometimes they might be like, oh, we used to work together at this company. They're a really cool person. Or we met at a networking event and chatted, and we just connected after that. Either way, ask for an introduction. If they used to work together, if they're actually friends, awesome. Ask them to introduce you via email, even if you can. Then you skip that whole LinkedIn, because really that LinkedIn dance is to get to the email, get in their inbox so you can have that direct link. Hopefully you can find that kind of connection. For another thing that people do a lot on LinkedIn, myself included, is they'll put their resume up. When you can upload documents, you can keep your up-to-date resume on there. And what's on a resume? Your email, your phone number. Some people put their address on there, and they get hired and forget about it. They forget to take it down. Use that. Like, it might seem a little stocky, but hey, they left it up there. If they say, "Where'd you get my email?" Well, your resume's on your LinkedIn. So I thought I'd just reach out because I saw this and that and the other thing on your LinkedIn, and I thought it was really interesting and I wanted to ask you about it. You just kind of pivot, steer away. But if you just straight up tell them, then they're going to be like, "Oh, I didn't know it was still up there. I better take that off." Third thing, stalk. Look at their profile, see where they used to work. Look at the company you're interested in, the specific department, if there's other people who work in the position that you're looking at, and investigate into it. Look at these users, if they're a career changer, what they used to do, where they went to school, if they went to college, where they're located now, their LinkedIn activity, if they've made recent posts, so that when you speak with them, you have talking points. You have something that you can genuinely say, "I saw this and thought it was really intriguing," or, "Hey, you went to this college? I went there." And a lot of people will add their website, their personal website, a blog, and their social media links on their LinkedIn as well. Again, with the personal website, there's a lot of people that have their resume on there too. So the social media links bring us to social media as a tool. If they have their social media links on there, just follow it right from there. If not, you can just go to the platform and type in the person's name, like Twitter, GitHub. I'm not well versed in Instagram, but I hear it's like a thing the kids use these days. So you can go on there and type in their name. And usually, especially with Twitter and GitHub, people tend to have kind of like professional ones where they list their place of employment. So if you can kind of see if you're finding the right John Daniels or not, and kind of narrow it down. And especially if the person has a website where they put blog posts, if they're a writer and you know you're going to be speaking with them in an interview or something, if they have any recent blog posts, it's just really great to skim one of those, because people are really impressed if you show up to an interview and you do your homework on them. If you have the names of the people you're meeting with and have looked into them personally, they're like, okay. They aren't kind of like, ugh, okay. It's definitely two different reactions. The first one, I've gotten more. Actually, I don't know if I've gotten the second one at all. GitHub. I didn't even put GitLab on here because, GitHub's pretty much dominating. But not to say GitLab isn't good. I love GitLab too. It has a place in my heart. But GitHub has this awesome search functionality, where you can put in the company's name, and most companies have like their own organization page, and they'll have like repositories of stuff they're working on there. That it now allows you to list, like, users to list the company they work for in their profile, and like in a way where they can tag it. So users that work there, their profiles will show up when you search the company. Also, for companies that you are in the interview process with, and I used to do this all the time, usually they don't have their technical interview up online, but other candidates who have been in the application process have gone through their technical interview, and they put it up on GitHub for the company to be able to access. So if I'm applying to the virtual coffee company, I would type in virtual coffee and use one of the keywords that I put here, like take home, challenge, assessment, and 10 to 1, you'll see, and click to the repository when it gives the search options, you'll see repos named virtual coffee take home, or virtual coffee challenge, and just be able to click on it. In the README, it'll have like the prompt itself, and that way you can see what it is before it's even given to you. You can do it on your own, compare what you did to other people, their implementation. I even would look at what people have done and then go to LinkedIn and see if those people were currently working at the company. And if they were, I'd like pay special attention and be like, okay, they got hired from this, so what did they do? I definitely don't think that's cheating. I think it's using the tools. Don't copy what they did, but just look at it and learn from it. If you're applying to a company that's open source, this is even better. Go on their organization and start working away. You don't have to dedicate a ton of time. Pick up one or two issues and see how their process goes. And when I say working, I mean contributing to their open source. This will get your name and your work in front of the developers so that you can learn their process, their code base, and that when you apply, they'll see your name and they'll be like, wait, I recognize that, and be able to connect the dots. Like, that's invaluable. Like, imagine that your prospective employer and coworkers, like your manager, get to have samples, like trial of working alongside you beforehand. That would be a much less risky hire than just going through an interview process and being like, okay, they seem cool, let's try it, you know? And if you have any questions about open source, come find me afterwards. I'd be happy to answer. Lastly, we have email tools. So there's free and low cost tools out there to search for email address formats, or if you have an email address that you think is valid, you can verify that by plugging it into a tool and it'll check if it can actually send. Alternatively, you can visit a company's website and look at their like newsroom, their press inquiry. Usually they have something called like media inquiries. Go here, and sometimes it says like press at virtualcoffee.com, but other times it might have like the actual person's name, like like dan.ott@virtualcoffee.com. So that way you can find out the domain format from that. And here's some examples of some of the things I was talking about. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So here's an email tool called Mail Tester. I will post all these resources like the email tools and other resources in the VC events channel after this, for anybody who's posting in the chat right now asking. But this one specifically is email format, it's called. And Broadridge is a company. So I put it in here to search for domains, and it came up with high confidence that first name dot last name at broadridge.com is their email address format. In this tab, if you click on it, it will show you actual emails that it had found by crawling the web, that are verified. Here's another example from Autodesk where I went to their media contacts website and found their email format because it has like their actual media contact representatives here. And then here is an example of an open source company called Esri. They're a geospatial mapping company. And I think I may have applied to them at one point because I love maps. But if you're into that, definitely check them out. But as you can see, there are 656 repositories. There's a lot to do here and a lot to pick from. So if you're interested,
This is great, Meg.
yeah. And to wrap it all up, why should you be a total creep? I'm saying that tongue in cheek. Finding something you have with a prospective employer or coworker can make a huge difference. Like you can have just an interaction with someone and it'll be, forgotten, just written off, or it can be completely memorable because you bring something up that they're like, oh wow, like we do have that in common. Or, oh, you read that blog post? Oh my gosh, thanks a lot for complimenting me on that. Building a commonality or having a commonality builds trust, and building relationships starts on that trust, because networking's a long game no matter what. So this is just like a different way to go about it. And hopefully these tips helped you out. I do have a story of myself doing using these types of things, and I'd be happy to share it in Thursday morning accountability buddies for anybody who'd like to join. And thank you everyone for coming and watching.
Thanks so much, Meg, for sharing this. I know that this is a topic that we commonly talk about at Virtual Coffee, and to like have this here and a video on this, I know it's going to help a lot of people. So we really appreciate that.
Thanks.